My mother is trying to kill me. The words echoed in my head, a silent scream that no one else could hear. It wasn't a sudden realization, but a creeping dread that had woven itself into the fabric of my everyday life. It started subtly, like a persistent whisper in the wind, with the little accidental mishaps. My favorite mug, the one with the chipped rim that had been a silent confidant through countless cups of tea and homework battles, shattered on the kitchen floor. "Oh, honey, I'm so clumsy," she chirped, her eyes wide with feigned innocence, as she swept up the ceramic shards. But I saw it, a fleeting spark of something unreadable in her gaze, a tiny flicker that sent a shiver down my spine. A week later, my painstaking watercolor of a sunset, a vibrant symphony of oranges and purples I'd spent hours perfecting for my art class, mysteriously fell off the table and into a puddle of harsh cleaning solution. The colors bled into a muddy, disheartening brown. Another, oh dear, however did that happen? And another one of her unsettlingly placid smiles. Then came the food, and my stomach still churned at the memory. She began adding strange ingredients to my meals, a pinch too much salt that puckered my lips and left them tingling, or a bizarre combination of spices that coated my tongue with a bitter, metallic aftertaste. I tried to be polite, to just pick at my food, pushing the unappetizing concoctions around my plate, but she'd sit there, her smile unwavering, watching me with an unnerving intensity until I took another bite. It was a silent battle of wills, and I was losing. One evening, she served me a dish that smelled vaguely, nauseatingly of rotten eggs. "It's a new recipe," she chirped, her eyes bright, very experimental. I took a tiny, hesitant mouthful, and my tongue immediately rebelled. My throat closed up, a sudden violent spasm, and I barely made it to the bathroom before I emptied the entire contents of my stomach into the toilet. When I emerged, pale and trembling, she was humming in the kitchen, washing dishes as if nothing out of the ordinary had occurred. The scent of the experimental dish still lingering, a sickly sweet poison in the air. The subtle acts escalated, becoming bolder, more direct. I started noticing things missing from my room, then reappearing in odd places. My diary, tucked securely under my mattress, would sometimes be on my desk, open to a random page. My favorite sweater, carefully folded in my drawer, would be crumpled on the floor. It was as if she was trying to send a message, a silent declaration of her presence, her control. I started locking my door at night, shoving a chair against it for extra measure, the flimsy barrier a small comfort against an unseen threat. Last night, however, was the worst. I was reading in bed, the soft glow of my bedside lamp casting long, dancing shadows across my familiar room. The house was steeped in an unnatural silence, save for the rhythmic, almost melodic creak of the old floorboards downstairs. Then I heard a soft, almost imperceptible click from my door. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat in my ears. The doorknob slowly, painstakingly, began to turn. I squeezed my eyes shut, my breath catching in my throat, praying it was just the wind, just my imagination. I heard the faint rustle of fabric, then a soft thud, as if something had been gently placed on my nightstand. When I finally dared to open my eyes, she was gone. On my nightstand next to my half-read book sat a single, pristine white lily, a beautiful flower, undeniably so, its delicate petals unfurling in the lamplight. But lilies are often associated with funerals. My blood turned to ice, each vein a frozen river. The air in my room suddenly felt heavy, suffocating, as if all the oxygen had been sucked out. I pulled the covers up to my chin, but I knew, with a terrifying certainty, that sleep wouldn't come. I just lay there, rigid and terrified, listening, waiting, wondering what fresh horror the morning would bring. Every shadow seemed to morph into a sinister shape, every creak of the house a prelude to her return. As the first slivers of dawn painted the sky a hesitant gray, I finally slipped into a fitful, dream-haunted sleep. When I woke, the lily was still there, a stark white sentinel on my nightstand. The house was quiet to quiet. I crept out of bed, my muscles stiff with fear, and made my way to the kitchen. My mother was already there, humming softly as she made pancakes. The smell of warm syrup and butter filled the air, a cruel parody of normalcy. "Morning, sleepyhead," she chirped, turning to me with that same unsettlingly placid smile. "Pancakes," I nodded, my voice stuck in my throat. As she turned back to the stove, I noticed something new. On the counter, nestled amongst the usual kitchen clutter, was a small, ornate bottle. It wasn't one I recognized. It had a peculiar, almost iridescent sheen, and a label I couldn't quite decipher from where I stood. A prickle of unease ran down my spine. "What's that?" I managed to croak, pointing to the bottle. She glanced at it, her smile widening just a fraction. "Oh, that? Just a new herbal supplement. For energy, you know. I thought we could both try it." Her eyes, usually so flat, seemed to hold a flicker of triumph. My heart pounded. This was it. The escalation I'd been dreading. I felt a cold dread settle deep in my stomach. She poured a clear liquid from the bottle into 2 glasses of orange juice, the liquid shimmering faintly as it mixed. "Here you go, sweetheart," she said, pushing a glass towards me. I looked at the glass, then at her. Her smile was unwavering, expectant. It was a game of chicken, and I knew, with chilling certainty, that this time, she wasn't bluffing. My hand trembled as I reached for the glass, my mind racing. What could I do? Where could I go? Just then, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from my best friend, Sarah. "Movie marathon at my place after school. My mom's making pizza." A tiny spark of an idea. A desperate, fleeting hope ignited within me. "Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "Sarah just invited me over for a movie marathon tonight. Can I go?" Her smile faltered, just for a second. The flicker in her eyes intensified. "Oh, but I was hoping we could have a nice quiet evening in just us." "Please, Mom," I pleaded, trying to inject as much enthusiasm as I could into my voice. "It's been ages since I've seen Sarah, and her mom makes the best pizza." She hesitated, her gaze lingering on the glass of orange juice. The silence stretched, thick and heavy, punctuated only by the sizzle of pancakes on the griddle. Finally, with a sigh that sounded almost theatrical, she said, "Oh, all right, but don't stay out too late." A wave of relief washed over me, so potent it almost buckled my knees. "Thank you, Mom. You're the best!" I grabbed the untouched glass of juice and practically sprinted from the kitchen. My heart still racing, but now with a different kind of urgency. As I dressed for school, my mind buzzed with a newfound determination. I couldn't stay here, not anymore. The thought of the lily, the strange bottle, the almost imperceptible changes in her eyes solidified my resolve. I had to leave, but where? And how? I was only 16. With no money and nowhere to go. School was a blur. I pretended to take notes, but my mind was miles away, frantically piecing together a plan. During lunch, I confided in Sarah, my voice a hushed whisper, the words stumbling out in a torrent of fear and desperation. She listened, her eyes wide with shock and concern. And when I finished, she didn't question me. She just nodded, her jaw set with a fierce loyalty. "You can stay with me," she said, her voice firm. "My parents will understand. We'll figure something out." Her words were a lifeline, a beacon in the terrifying darkness that had become my life. After school, instead of going home, I walked with Sarah to her house. My backpack felt impossibly light, even though it contained everything I considered essential: my diary, a change of clothes, and a few cherished photographs. Every step away from my house felt like a victory, a small act of rebellion against the chilling presence that lurked within its walls. The unveiling of the past. That evening, tucked safely in Sarah's guest room, the lingering fear began to mix with a desperate need for answers. Why? Why was my mother doing this? I pulled up my diary, the one she had inexplicably moved, and flipped through the pages, searching for clues, for anything that might explain her sudden, terrifying shift. My finger brushed against a loose page, tucked between entries from last summer. It wasn't my handwriting. It was my mother's, a delicate, looping script I hadn't seen in years. The note was dated just a few weeks after my 16th birthday, a birthday that now felt tainted. It read, "She's growing up. She's starting to look too much like her. The way her hair falls, the curve of her smile, even the way she hums when she's happy. It's unbearable. Every day, I see her, and it's like a ghost has come back to haunt me." I tried to suppress it, to tell myself it was just my imagination. But it's undeniable now. She's becoming her, and I can't live through that again. I just can't. My heart plummeted. Her? Who was her? I searched a diary, desperate for more, but there was nothing. A cold, dreadful realization began to dawn on me. I remembered hushed conversations from years ago, snippets of overheard arguments between my parents, always ending abruptly when I entered the room. Phrases like "your sister" and "the accident" would flow through the air, quickly followed by strained silence. I knew my mother had a sister, my aunt, whom I'd never met. I'd been told she died before I was born, in a tragic car accident. My mother rarely spoke of her, and when she did, her face would become a mask of profound sorrow, her eyes distant and haunted. Suddenly, the pieces started to click into place with a horrifying precision. The subtle acts of sabotage, the accidental spills, the tainted food, the lily. It wasn't just about control. It was about erasing something or someone. She wasn't trying to kill me because of anything I had done. She was trying to kill the resemblance, the living echo of a past trauma she couldn't bear to relive. I looked like her sister. My existence, my very presence, was a constant, agonizing reminder of a loss that had clearly shattered my mother's mind. The thought sent a fresh wave of terror through me, but also a strange, chilling clarity. It wasn't about hatred for me, but a desperate, deranged attempt to bury a ghost. It made her actions no less terrifying, but it offered a glimpse into the twisted logic of her descent. I was a living, breathing photograph of her deepest pain, and in her fractured mind, the only way to escape that pain was to make the photograph disappear. So now I know the truth. It wasn't poison she wanted to feed me. It was the past, the grief, the guilt, the ghost of a sister I never knew. But somehow I had become her in my mother's eyes. And now I'm left with a question I never thought I'd have to ask. Do I try to reach the mother who once tucked me in at night? Or do I keep running from the woman who might not stop until I'm gone? What would you do if the person who raised you started to confuse you with a memory they never healed from? This isn't the end. It can't be. So if you've been holding your breath like I have, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming. Because the truth, this story, is only just beginning.